Tonight on the MTN News, a city in flames.
We're experiencing something that has never been experienced.
Two former Q2 reporters now living in LA give a first-hand account of an unimaginable disaster. Also,
cause of death was homicide. 5, the death was, and justifiable homicide is marked.
The results of an inquest into whether a sheriff's deputy was justified in shooting and killing a woman in Billings. And a bathroom bill.
I'm the kind of person that if I got treated fairly, I still want to watch out for the ones that didn't.
Montana lawmakers get down to business about where some people can do their business. The MTN News starts right now.
From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us on your Friday. I'm Russ Riesinger. More Montana firefighters are on their way to California tonight to help battle what could end up being one of the costliest wildfires in history. That includes a team of firefighters from Columbus and Red Lodge, as well as several helicopter pilots from here in Billings. Billings Flying Service says 2 of its Chinooks are now in the Los Angeles area supporting firefighting efforts, along with 12 crew members. Meantime, 10 fire engines are also departing Montana tomorrow morning with firefighters across the state. That's in addition to crews from Butte, Big Sky, Belgrade, Whitefish, Missoula, Corvallis, and Plains. The Chief Mountain Hotshots, a Native American elite firefighting crew based out of Browning, has also been deployed with around 25 crew members helping fight those fires. And there are also around 25 other wildland firefighters from Missoula-based Northern Rockies Coordination Center now on the ground in California as well. Well, at least 10 people have been killed and more than 10,000 homes and businesses destroyed as those fires have scorched 55 square miles there in Los Angeles County. Casey Conlon talked with 2 people you'll recognize if you've watched Q2 over the years who are very close to those spreading flames.
It seems like everyone can find someone who's affected by this week's Los Angeles wildfires. It's no different here at Q2. 2 of our former reporters currently live 4 miles from the Palisades fire. They've seen plenty before, but admit this is a completely new and scary experience.
To see that and feel what those winds were like, it was truly terrifying.
It's been a long week for Billings native Dustin Kleeman and wife Asia Gore.
You know, we have like sliding doors for our patio, and when the peak winds were happening, I would watch them bow inward into our house.
In Montana, we're accustomed to high winds. That's not something that happens down here.
Those winds are responsible for this complete destruction of multiple neighborhoods, thousands of homes lost. Both Kleeman and Gore no victims.
Publisher and managing editor lost her house in the Palisades fire.
A colleague of mine, she lost her home. That was in the Eden fire.
The images from the ground are astounding, up close and personal, very different than wildfire coverage back here at home.
In Montana, when we would cover fires, there's such big areas and it's so vast, where here, it's on every street.
Before moving to California, I'd never been that close to a fire, but then it kind of became like part of the coverage.
It looks to be what was once 2 homes right next to each other.
Both have experience with urban wildfires. After leaving Q2, they worked for our sister station KSBY in San Luis Obispo, California.
Across the street from me, this is a home that hasn't been touched.
A month after arriving, the holiday fire broke out in nearby Goleta. It burned just 113 acres, but destroyed 10 homes. Those memories have come flooding back over the last 72 hours.
We saw a gentleman reporting an explosion happened at a house, and he was 50 yards away.
Being pelted by rocks and sand.
I watch them and I think like, wow, how did I ever like draw myself that close to these fires? Because I'm watching now and I'm thinking you should get away from it.
They're happy to be a little farther away now, but certainly not far enough. Casey Conlon for MTN News.
Adding to the confusion there in Los Angeles, the county's wireless emergency alert system has sent out some incorrect messages. And that got us to wondering about our own emergency alert system here, which, as David J. reports, has also faced some challenges.
Many have needed to evacuate in Southern California, and receiving a message or not receiving a message can mean life or death. In Yellowstone County, procedures are in place to prevent false messages, but if it does happen, they also have a quick plan to remedy that. Evacuations have been quick and scary in Southern California neighborhoods.
I see people packing up their things, luggage, loading their cars.
And communication problems have made a terrifying situation even worse. Early Friday morning, an evacuation alert was mistakenly sent out to 10 million people in Los Angeles County, an alert meant for several thousand homeowners. The county's Office of Emergency Management is investigating.
We have every technical specialist working to resolve this issue and to find the root cause.
Back here in Montana, Emergency Management Services in Yellowstone County also has a mass notification system utilized during fires and other emergencies. It's called Everbridge.
That goes through various channels and ultimately is approved.
Director of Emergency Management Derek Yeager says messages are thoroughly vetted before they're sent. The system has only been in place for a year, but so far has worked well with one exception. Not many residents are enrolled to receive those emergency messages.
The Everbridge system is only as good as the number of people that have registered to receive the alert.
So far, about 15,500 Yellowstone County residents are signed up for the Everbridge platform, which is called Yellowstone County Informed.
The communication is very direct. It's literally sitting down with that person that wishes that message to go out to the public.
And Yeager knows the importance. He has worked as a firefighter himself and has battled hundreds of fires in Southern California.
You see some of the emotional impacts to families standing on the street, watching everything they had go away.
Tragedy made even worse when those in the fire's path can't be notified.
I implore everyone to not disable the messages on your phone.
In Billings, David J., MTN News.
A fire in Billings has burned one family out of their home and sent one person to the hospital. This is what's left of that mobile home on Laurel Road, which caught fire around 9 o'clock last night. One man suffered second-degree burns and is expected to be okay. Billings First Congregational Church is collecting donations and baby boys' clothing and diapers for that family. A jury ruled this morning that a Yellowstone County Sheriff's deputy was justified in shooting and killing 35-year-old Vilene Not Afraid during a standoff that happened almost 2 years ago. The two-day coroner's inquest dates back to March of 2023 after an armed robbery, police pursuit, and a 2-hour standoff on a busy Billings roadway. Yesterday, the citizen jury listened to testimony by Billings police officers and Yellowstone County Sheriff's deputies about what had occurred before the shooting. The jury also heard from the sheriff's deputy, Christopher Etter, who fired 4 shots at Not Afraid. She later died at Billings Clinic. This morning, after less than an hour of deliberations, a verdict. The jury determined that Etter was justified in shooting Not Afraid.
Cause of death was homicide. 5, the death was injustifiable homicide is marked. If caused by another person or persons, his, her, or their names is or are, and it states Deputy Etter. Number 7, the cause of death was by criminal means. The no option is checked. Number 8, was the death the result of suicide through law enforcement intervention, and the yes option is checked.
Under Montana law, the suicide by law enforcement option for the jury to deliberate is a new addition to the jury verdict form.
An active weather situation for Montana this evening. Now, we've had wind gusts in Livingston over 50 miles an hour since at least 7 this morning, and because of that, blowing and drifting snow and a lot of accidents, we've actually had a closure of the interstate around Livingston from mile marker 330 to 337. Traffic both directions is being diverted through Livingston, so if you're traveling through this area, there are going to be delays. Make sure you drive carefully. There are some places on the interstate that have ice and snow as well. We also have some rain, freezing rain mixes, as well as a little bit of light snow over parts of southeastern and east central Montana. A lot more active weather is coming. Our 7-day forecast in a few minutes.
In a historic courtroom moment, President-elect Donald Trump appeared virtually before a New York judge to be sentenced as a convicted felon. This after the president-elect was convicted of 34 felonies in a scheme to cover up hush money payments to porn actress Stormy Daniels. Trump could have faced 4 years but was given an unconditional discharge, so he will not face any punishment.
But the fact is that I'm totally innocent. I did nothing wrong.
This is the proverbial slap on the wrist. It is symbolic. It is an acknowledgement that there was a conviction, and it is essentially no more.
Trump and his attorneys have vowed to appeal, a process that could play out while he's in the White House. Montana lawmakers heard more than 3 hours of testimony on a bill today that would require transgender people to use the bathroom that aligns with their sex at birth. MTN senior political reporter Jonathan Ambarian was there for that hearing.
Supporters of House Bill 121 told the House Judiciary Committee Friday that it was intended to protect single-sex spaces, especially for women. Opponents of the bill said it was discriminatory against transgender Montanans. HB 121 requires schools, correctional facilities, other public buildings, and domestic violence shelters to designate multi-use bathrooms, changing rooms, and sleeping areas for either men or women based on their sex at birth, and to take reasonable steps to keep the opposite sex out. Someone could then sue those facilities if they failed to take those steps. Republican Representative Carrie Seekins Crow of Billings sponsored the bill. She denied it was discriminating against anyone and said it was ensuring women's safety, particularly in vulnerable situations.
There are a lot of accommodations that are already being made throughout the state. They have already been there because entities are wanting to make sure that we do protect women.
Lieutenant Governor Kristen Juris also testified in support, tying the bill to legislation the Gianforte administration has supported in previous sessions, banning gender-affirming procedures for transgender youth and restricting transgender female athletes from girls' sports.
Acknowledging biological realities should not be complicated or controversial, and neither should this bill. Working with the legislature, the governor's office has been proud of our shared record of defending Montanans from the far left's ideological crusade that has swept the nation.
Opponents said there was no way to enforce this requirement without intruding on people's privacy.
How is the state expected to prevent me from using the men's bathroom? How is the state expected to know that I should be using the women's bathroom and require me to do so? It doesn't make any sense.
Others raised concerns that it would be too burdensome on local governments and shelters. Kim Patterson with Helena's Friendship Center said it could put hundreds of thousands of dollars in federal funding at risk.
All of this funding, including FIPSA, prohibits discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. We are already under-resourced, and the loss of this funding would be detrimental to the people who rely on our life-saving services.
The committee took no immediate action on the bill. In Helena, Jonathan Ambarian, MTN News.
Ahead on the MTN 10 o'clock news here on Q2, why a good jobs report ended up being bad news for your 401k. And later, the struggle is real when it comes to plowing city streets after a snowstorm.
From Montana's news leader, you're watching the MTN 10 o'clock news.
The U.S. job market staying hot as we get the new year started. The latest report from the Department of Labor shows the economy added a whopping 256,000 jobs last month, beating expectations by far. The unemployment rate ticked down to 4.1%. The report also shows average hourly wages ticked down slightly, but are still comfortably above the inflation rate. But a good jobs report turned out to be bad news on Wall Street as it dampened hopes for more interest rate cuts this year. The Dow Jones losing almost 700 points, with the NASDAQ and S&P also losing major ground.